The second issue that I'd like to cover this week is a story that, and here I am going to compliment Radio New Zealand. I'm going to compliment them greatly. And it's a story that I have been telling my editorial producer himself that this is important. And it's a story that has gone under the radar for too long. And it's a story which you would have heard probably 1,000 times before, but it's now got to the stage that you don't see it. You've heard it so often, and you've heard about it so often, and you've probably registered emotional responses in the past that now when the issue is raised, it doesn't actually appear. It's like an obstacle, and you drive past it every day, and suddenly, or a big hoarding, a big advertising hoarding. And initially it might be quite shocking, but by the 7th or 8th time you've driven past that advertising hoarding, you actually don't see it. You don't notice it at all. It's gone. It's disappeared off your field of vision. Well, that's what it is about this particular issue. Radio New Zealand are running a story today, and good on them, I say. And thank God somebody is, because it is critical to the future of this country, on welfare and benefit dependency, in which they ask, I presume, a Maori man, sounds like it, by the name of James, although I think they say that's not his real name, so they've given him an English name, James. I guess it would just be, it'd be too obvious if it gave him his proper Maori name, but they've interviewed James. Now, James is a single parent to a 13-year-old son. There's no reason that James can't work, right? He's a single parent to a 13-year-old son. But he has had this discussion with Radio New Zealand this morning, who've agreed not to identify him. Fair enough. I don't have a problem with that. He hasn't committed any criminal act here. But he's been on the sole parent support and job seeker support for Department from Social Welfare for 7 to 8 years. And then he says this, says James, to be really, really honest, I stopped working at a pretty good paying job to get access to legal aid because I ran out of money trying to get access to my kiddo to begin with. So in other words, he was earning too much money to get legal aid, so he decided to fight, obviously, in the family court for, it looks like, custody of his child, his only single child. So he decided to quit his job and go on the welfare benefit so that he could therefore access the free legal services provided by the state. Now there's a perverse incentive for you. But good on James for pointing out that's why he did it. And then he said, listen, I've gone back into study this year, so I'll probably be on the sole parent benefit for at least another 2 years. And this is what he says, I've fallen into the trap of being 100% reliant on welfare. And I honestly believe it's taken this long to do something because life's too easy on the benefit, he said. He's been on it for 7 or 8 years. Now, this is what James receives. He receives $494.80 a week in sole parent support. And of itself, I'd go, oh gosh, that's not a lot. $494 a week sole parent. And the thing about James is that James, it's a bit like the police pay that I talked about yesterday. You know, you're given a figure and said it's $494 you get for being on the DPB or then the sole parent benefit. In his particular case, he's got a 13-year-old son. You know, that's it. No, it's not. He then gets $155 in accommodation supplement on top of that. This is from the state. He then gets $144.30 in family tax credit. And then he gets an additional $44.13 in temporary additional support, again provided by the Social Welfare Department, because they say to him, well, you can't live on that, we'll give you an extra $44 a week. He actually brings home a week $838.23. He pays rent of $450 a week, which seems very high, but I guess he must be living in a place, just him and his son. And he's got an additional $25 on top of that for water and other expenses. I'm assuming that relates to the rental property. He must be paying water charges. Do they do that in Whangarei City Council? Perhaps they do. I always thought it came out of the rent, but there you go. He says this, I live comfortably within my means. I also don't smoke, drink. I don't have any hire purchases apart from fines as a young guy or anything ticked up at all. I live in a nice 2-bedroom townhouse with just me and my son. We even have harbour views. He said even though they were comfortable, it was a limited life. He's got a plan for things like trips to the movies or the circus. But they do, and they get by. He also said there might be a generational aspect to him receiving his benefit. My mum and dad, he said, only got jobs in the last 10 years or so, and I know countless families off the top of my head where every single member, grandparents to the ones turning 18, have never had jobs and likely never will. I lived in Aussie from 17 years of age to James till I was 24, and after coming back here, I almost feel like Northland in general have a negative blame everybody and everything else sort of attitude is at fault towards everything and everyone. And that is the interview that was undertaken this morning with James, who is on $838.23 net a week and doesn't have to lift a finger and looks after a 13-year-old son. $838 a week. Try and work that out, Josh. You're not on $838 a week net, are you?
No, I don't.
No,
I
you're
would be,
not.
actually, no.
No, wouldn't you like to be? And you get sole charge of your son. You haven't worked for 7 or 8 years. Nobody's forcing you to work for that time, even though you can. And you're coming from a family in which, well, to be perfectly honest with you, Northland, this is my life. The reason I raise this issue is because there are currently, as I talk to you now, 409,665 adult New Zealanders living on a benefit in this country. 409,665. Don't know if they'll all be on what James is getting, but when they talk about what this unemployment benefit is, James puts the lie to that. This is all the other additional support from the state. In his case, it is an additional $243 a week on top of his benefit. No wonder he doesn't want to work. And where would James have to work to earn as much money as $838.23 a week net? Where would he have to work to get that? And why would he work for that? Isn't James making the most rational of choices? He made a rational choice to do with legal aid, and now he's made a second rational choice after 7 or 8 years on welfare. I raised this issue this morning because it's, again, we see this every day. It's like the billboard we drive past on our way to work. Yes, we're working, the ones that work. I'm paying the taxes. We don't see it anymore, but it is destroying our country. Destroying James, destroying his kid's name. What do you think his 13-year-old son's going to go on and do, eh? Given that he comes from intergenerations of welfare dependents, a pretty good life, thanks very much. Your thoughts on that? Those are mine this morning.